Hello YouTube. It's a rainy day and power's out. We've had probably working on another 6 inches of rain. Had 6 inches of rain a few days ago. Get another one. I mean it's flooding. Showed a video short of the creek behind the shop. So first time I'd ever seen water in it like that. I thought maybe I'd whittle on a stick and try out my new junior Fieldlore that I made for myself. That's mesquite wood, black liners, and no, you can't order one like this. You can order what's in the listing, and I'll put a link to that below. But you can, pre-orders are being taken right now for first runs if you want one. And there are some options there. I think a redwood is the only wood that's offered in this first run release. So anyway, I got a piece of basswood here, and you can get these little chunks of basswood off of Amazon. Just do a search. They're kind of neat. I mean, they're not cheap, but it's cheaper than going and getting it. Okay, so anyway, I'm just going to take my pencil and just draw some lines here, using my finger as a guide. About 1/8 inch from the top. Like so. Move the camera down so you guys can see me. Just like so. All the way around. We'll do the same thing on the sides. And I want to stop about here. So, once again, try to use my finger as a guide. And there we have it. Then along the sides, about another 1/8 inch. Like so. So that's what I've got. Okay. Now we got it all outlined. I want to leave a ball in the center. So I want to probably about a 1/2 inch here in the center. Something like that. So I want to take all of this out. Okay, so all of this is going to be carved out. We're going to leave the ball right here. This is the ball. Like so. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that pencil marks. So here's the ball in the center. And this is going to be all carved out, be hollow. We're going to leave a little round ball right there. Okay? Okay, I hope you guys can hear me over the rain. So basically what you want to do now is take your knife and you just want to carve out those areas there. So as you stick your knife into this area, if you watch the angle of your knife, you want the pressure to be applied to the knife digging into the wood. You don't want the pressure applied to coming out of the wood. So the angle of your knife is very important. Also, the round part of your tip and the position of your tip on your knife is important. If your tip of your knife is down here, then this angle is going to be different. If it's way up here in a skinner, then the angle is going to be way back like this. Okay? Can you see that? So you have to watch the position of your blade and how it applies to the wood and when you're digging in. And a lot of this will make sense once you start whittling on a stick and paying attention to things like this, okay? If you don't know what to look for, then you just don't know, okay? So what you want to do is you want to take this thumb and apply pressure and angle the blade to where the pressure is being applied into the wood, not out of the wood, okay? And just score down that line. Okay, stop it there. Then we're going to score down this line. Again, angling the blade to where you're pressing into the wood. And sometimes you have to turn the block over and come from the opposite side. And it's kind of a little difficult to do when there's nothing to grab onto the backside. But just take your time, a little patience. And you'll see, once you start using a knife, you'll find out where those sharp edges are. See, for me, this part right here is what I need to round off a little bit more, because that's where my thumb's at, okay? So I want to leave this part here as a 90, and this part here as a 90. So what I can do is I can take a marker, and I can mark those areas that I want to ease off. Because all of my knives come with a 90 degree spine. It's easier for you to take it off the 90 than it is to put a 90 on the blade. So I do a 90 all the way for my knives. Because a 90 degree spine is just a lot more useful than, see, if you got something to grab onto, turn it over is pretty easy. Okay, and now we got these two here. Because remember, we're going to take this part out. See the X? We're going to take this part out and this part out. Turn it over and come back from the other direction. And you don't have to go the complete depth of first cut. You can just kind of beaver chew it, if you will. Do light, 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 light until you get to the depth you want. Because it depends on the species of wood as to how deep you're going to get those cuts. Also, your tip of your knife and how sharp it is. Okay, so now I want to start removing these two portions here. So I come back at an angle, and see that? I start cutting these, taking broad cuts and just removing that material. And when it doesn't want to release, then I come back and I do another cut across those fibers. Go a little bit deeper. Okay? And I keep doing that with patience and perseverance. Endeavor to persevere. You know what movie that is? Until we get this probably about an 1/8 inch deep or something like that. Just take your time. And what you can do, if they're real stubborn fibers, you can come across here and cut those fibers. That way it's a shorter piece of material that you're taking out. Sometimes that's a lot easier. Instead of using your tip of your knife to pry those out, you can use this part here if you got a little bit of a belly there. And just see how that makes it a lot easier. And you're not putting that much pressure on your real fine tip. Again, I hope you guys are hearing this. If it feels like it's applying too much pressure, then back off, cut some more fibers, and make sure that it's releasing. Because you don't want to break your tip off. And most Lloyd knives that I see, that's one of the major problems, because they're so fine of a tip. and just keep cutting those fibers. Your fibers are running this way, so if you cut across, then that cuts those fibers down the sides to where they come out a lot easier. Okay, so that right there I know is I need to kind of ease that portion off, and it's about here to here. So what I want to do is I want to take a little bit of WD-40 and just apply a little bit of oil right there. Now you don't want to mess up the face of your knife. I mean, my knives are not high polished anyway, but how you do that is this is just a piece of 220 sandpaper. And what I want to do is I want to just take and I just want to hit that edge a little bit. Can you see that? It doesn't have to be rounded. All you want to do is just knock that sharp edge off a little bit. And make sure your sandpaper's angled. You don't want to touch your flats, okay? Just make sure it's angled against that sharp edge right there. And again, if you had a little Sharpie, you can mark that blade right there, and that WD-40 will take that marker off of your blade. Okay, that's pretty well rounded. Kind of go that direction a little bit with it if you want to. As long as you don't touch the face of this blade here. And then do the other side the same way. Again, you're not touching the face of your blade. You're just touching that one little strip right there, the edge of your spine. Okay, just like that. And you're not going to be able to see it, but you're going to be able to feel it. That's a lot sharper there than it is right there. Okay? Just take a little bit at a time. You don't have to take it all at one time. Again, it's easier to take it off than it is to put it back. Okay? So just take your time, round that portion off. And if you need to take more off, then you can do that. Okay? So now let's use it and see how that feels. Oh, that feels a whole lot better. Okay. And now I still have a 90-degree spine from here to here to do those ferrule rods. And I got a 90-degree spine there, so if I want to scrape the wood or whatever I want to do, I still got that 90-degree spine for fluff and tinder and all that good stuff, okay? And right here, that tip, I use that part right there a lot to get in there and scrape up and smooth out those edges and little carvings and stuff. Remember, your blade is stronger this way than it is this way, okay? So when you want to apply pressure along the strength, not along the weakness. Hope these little tips are helping you guys out. And it may be stuff that's kind of common sense in a lot of ways, and probably just never thought about it. But anyway. Okay, so just like so, keep removing the material that way. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way around, and I'm going to remove that kind of material all the way around in these squares on the top. And I'll get back with you when I'm done. It's to keep this video from being 20 hours long. Okay, so I'll get back with you. Okay, I've about made it all the way around. This is the last block. And if you'll notice, as you're cutting around, you'll be able to cut through these little posts right here and get your knife on the other side as you go around on each side. See, so you can take this material out and just slowly work your way. Eventually, you'll get to the other side. Just take your time. It'll get there. And see, and just like that, you're through to the other side on that one. Okay? And so on the other side, do the same thing. Just keep working your way. Tell you what, I really like the way that knife fits in there, so you got power. That's basically a stop for when you're trying to drive that point into something. That right there works as a stop. That right there stops it. And that little rounded tip right there, it gets in there and removes all of that material. It's not too much of a belly to hinder it from doing little bushcraft tasks and things like that. But yeah, there's probably enough. I mean, I have to skin some game, but I've skinned probably enough game in my lifetime to have a pretty good idea. And that belly right there is probably about the same belly that you'd have on, say, a trapper, a blade. And everybody is familiar with a trapper blade and know how well they skin. I mean, there's probably more deer skin with a regular trapper pocket knife than anything. Or at least field dressed. Okay, so now I have it cleared out all the way around. And all I have is just that one bit of material in there. Okay, so you just take the point of your knife and just start cutting it away. And just remove it. Just cut up into it, take the point, cut those fibers. Like so. And just gently lift it out of the way. Okay? Keep doing that all the way around until I have a complete hole there. So now I've whittled down, I got about that much left. And all I've been doing is just taking the point and just get it in there and scraping it smooth with that belly right there. And then going back the other way to get the other side down. You put the tip in there and kind of cut those fibers if you need to. Be sure and not cut this little post here, because you don't want to cut that post and let your ball be free. You want them to be caught inside that cage. So you don't want to cut too much of these little posts off. All right, so eventually, now, it's gone. And you can go back in with your point and kind of clean things up. But again, be careful until you get your ball done. You don't want to decrease the size of these posts here. All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing I did here on the bottom, okay? So all I'll have is just this right here left after I get back with you. Okay, I've got all the junk, if you could, out of it. So I've got this left in the middle. All right. So now what we got to do is put the specs on so we can see, and we're just going to start rounding this off like so. So we got to make a square into a ball, or make a ball from a square, or a cube, I guess you could call it. And as I was whittling on this, I continued to work on rounding these corners to get it just a little bit more comfortable. And you could do the same. It just take a little bit off at a time. I think I got it about to where I need it to be. Now, as I've been doing this, I've been thinking about this Junior Fieldlore. And is it a green woodworking knife? Well, it's not its primary function, but the thing that I try to design knives to do is to be versatile. In other words, I want a knife that'll do as many tasks and as many different requirements as well as possible. That makes sense. So is it a fantastic slowing knife? Well, I don't know about fantastic, but it's certainly great. Okay. Would you want a finer tip? In some circumstances, you may want a finer tip. But the problem is with a finer tip, it's not as strong. They tend to break. That's the reason you see a lot of sloyd knives. And when you were doing this, we need to be careful and not cut too much off of this face, because we want these posts here to hold it. We don't want it to slip through those posts. So we want to keep this kind of flush right there. So we just want to make it round on the corners. But a point like that is kind of robust. It's more versatile than just a sloyd knife. A sloyd knife, that tip is probably the weakest part of that design of most sloyd knives anyway. So see how we're kind of getting that round? So we just kind of do that on all sides. And while I'm whittling here, I'm going to talk. I mean, like I said, this is a long video. And you can skip past what you don't want to hear. But I try to pass on as much experience as I can in these videos so that it's not a complete waste of time. It's not like watching paint dry. At least you hear somebody talking. So try to make them as beneficial as possible. But I'm very pleased with this this Fieldlore, this Junior Fieldlore. And I'll put a link at the end of this video to where you can find out about this knife and how to order it. It's only for a limited time. I think the first run sale ends, our preloader sale ends on the 18th. So I wanted to give everybody at least a one check or two to have the opportunity to place the order. Now this one, like I said before, this one is a custom build, and I don't have time to do several hundred customs, so it has to stay with what is offered in the listing. And I think that there's enough offerings in there to at least get you something that you can live with anyway. There's some sure touch options, and micarta, one wood option. It's redwood, which is a very durable wood that is still very nice. It's not slick like a lot of the woods are. It's very nimble. Whereas the Fieldlore, which is about overall is about 2 inches longer. Blade on it is only about 3/4, maybe an inch longer. Yeah, probably an inch longer. The blade is, and the handle's a lot longer. Whereas this one is a little bit more nimble. It was designed per a customer request. Wanted an option of a smaller Fieldlore. It's designed for a pocket model, and I'm starting to see a lot of bushcrafters, if you will, for lack of a better term, going to a fixed blade for an EDC pocket carry, and I think that's just fantastic. Because in the introduction video, I had mentioned that I was very disappointed in the last in the pocket knives that are available right now. It seems like, I mean, a lot of them has these premium steels that, and I've done a lot of knives in premium steels, and you know, lab wise, I mean, they're fantastic. Whether you're going to see that in day-to-day use, I don't know. I doubt it, but I don't, and I use a knife every day. But I mean, these are in AEBL, and I think AEBL is probably the best bang for the buck steel that you can get. It's reasonably priced, and I mean, it's a phenomenal steel. It's easily sharpened, holds a great edge for a long time, and you know, it's hard to ask a steel to do anything else. You know, all of them are going to get dull eventually. The question is are you going to be able to bring it back reasonably easy to that that very fine edge that you want? And AEBL steel was designed or developed for razor blades, so it handles a very fine edge very well, and all of my edges are about 12 to 13 degrees. So even on the saber portion here, that's a very fine edge. They just cut better. And today's I won't say all of them, but I would say probably a good 85 to 90% of all of the production knives, the edges are going to be anywhere from 20 to 22 degrees, whereas mine's 12. So you can imagine the difference in the cutability on that and the slicing power. But again, most of those companies, I'm not going to say all, but most of those companies, they do not take the time for the heat treat. And a lot of them outsource their heat treat, whereas I do it all in-house. And so that, I mean, the Rockwell on these with AEBL is about 62 to 63. Right? I always say 61 to 63. So on average, they're about 62 and a half. So that's pretty hard steel. but they still hold up. I mean, you see me twisting, although this is soft steel, but it's still, even in the harder steels or the harder woods, it still holds up quite nicely. All right, let's see if we can't start breaking this ball loose. And basically, it's just like what you did here, is you're just trying to get that area right there all the way through. Just keep running your blade up through there. Eventually, it'll break loose. Just keep going straight up. And see. And do the other side. Just keep working that blade. I don't know how long it takes me to do this, because I actually took a lunch break and I didn't do this. It should break loose now. Still hanging up right there a little bit. There. See, it's loose. Now we're just going to start rounding it off a little bit better. And this is where a fine tip comes in handy. And this is a coarse edge too, and I've talked about the when I did my carving kit video a couple of days ago, I mentioned that I prefer my wood carving tools to have a polished edge, but all of my daily use knives and for everything else, I prefer a coarse edge. And the reason for that is coarse edge lasts longer, because it has microscopic teeth, and I've said this in hundreds of videos. And those microscopic teeth, they protect each other. As one mountain wears down, another mountain takes its place. And so it lasts longer. Whereas if it's highly polished, then it's all one even edge. And once it's dull, it's just dull. There's nothing that takes its place. So a microscopic toothy edge is lasts a lot longer than a polished edge. But when you're carving wood, you want more of a polished edge, because you want it to cut immediately when you touch that wood, whereas a rough edge, you have to do a sawing motion to get that really nice cut. Now, I mean, there's different scales of polish versus toothy. I mean, you could have a very polished toothy edge to have kind of both worlds. But anyway, the more toothy it is, within reason, you don't want to saw, but within reason, the better or the longer that edge is going to last, and the longer it's going to cut. So for such as things like this, then you may want to take your knife and polish the edge up a little bit, and then when you touch it up after you're done, then leave that, put that coarse edge back on it. But this one, I just left the coarse edge on there just to kind of see what it would do, and it's done pretty good. I mean, it's not a wood carving knife by any means, but it does the job quite well. It's versatile. Versatility is what we're going for there. So what you're doing is you're just going through here and kind of rounding things off, and the more you round off, the better it's going to slide and roll in that cage. You just want to make sure that you don't get it to where it's too small that it's going to slip between these bars. Okay? So just take your time. Remember, this is fun. This is not a race. It's not who finishes first. So anyway, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to smooth this thing out. I mean, this video is probably an hour long already. And I just wanted to do a little carving with this knife, a little whittling, to see how well it handled and felt. There was no hot spots in it and all this other stuff. When I was doing the R&D, I did a tri-stick or two, but I didn't do anything intricate like this. And so, yeah, it's doing as well, if not better, than what I expected it to do. This is a phenomenal design, and I said in the introduction video that is this going to replace my Fieldlore? Because I think the Fieldlore is perfect. It just might. It just might. I'm trying to think of a situation where I'll need that other inch on that blade. That's the only thing that is keeping me from saying that it replaces that Fieldlore. But the Fieldlore is, as its name implies, field. So you're going to need tasks different than, say, something that is a neck knife or a smaller blade, which is usually a companion knife. Whereas the Fieldlore is more of a, I don't say one tool option, because I don't believe in a one tool option, but it's going to be a one knife option. Whereas this one, you may want a larger knife for some of the butchering and things like that you might need a knife for. Whereas the Fieldlore is probably long enough to take care of those tasks easily. So I don't know. It just depends on the individual. For me personally, this and a good axe or hatchet probably be about all you'd want, and maybe a saw. For I'd say 99% of the bushcraft task. One thing that is a positive on this knife is it's light. It's a great little neck knife, whereas the Fieldlore is a little big for that. And it's easily slipped in your pocket with those thinner scales. So I think there's a lot more going for it than, say, the Fieldlore. Mosquitoes get bad. So anyway, well, I'm gonna work on this, polishing it up a little bit, and once I get it done, I'll show you the end result. Okay, once you get it to where it'll kind of rotate in there or float, then you can twist the ball around and just keep getting it rounder and rounder and rounder. Just need to make sure that you only take little chips out of it, so it doesn't come through your cage. Then once you get the ball as round as you want it and looks pretty decent, then you start cleaning up these posts and just kind of smoothing them out. And just, if you have a 90-degree spine right there on your tip, then you just kind of smooth that out. Just kind of scrape them a little bit. It's kind of like a cabinet scraper. But again, you want to make sure that you don't get these too small to where your little ball will fall out. So just take your time, clean it up. I'll probably whittle on this thing every day for several weeks, just tidying it up, making it purdy. But anyway, that's how it's done. And so if you're interested in getting one of these little knives or pre-ordering one, they're going to be fabricated in about 90 days from May the 18th. So within 100 days, these are going to be shipped out, the first runs. So it's not a very long wait, or a real long wait compared to my production models. Since these are first runs, then there's a little bit less of a wait on them. Try to get the first runs done within just a few weeks of release. So anyway, I can sit here and do this all day. But yeah, I'm really liking this little junior Fieldlore. My hands are not cramping up. I mean, it's still like a razor blade. And two, I mean, if you feel like it's losing its edge a little bit, a lot of times you just need to clean the edge. So just drop your edge on whatever you're whittling on, and it tightens that edge right back up. See how it's just slicing that fingernail? I tell you what, it's hard to beat that AEBL. Even though it's a coarse edge, it'll still shave a little bit. But we're not shaving wood, we're cutting wood. But I mean, it's sharp. You know, you just pull it on a little bit. See how thin those curls come off that nail. But yeah, I like in the junior Fieldlore. The more I use it, the reason I made me a custom is because I like the prototype so well. I said, man, I need to make me one. And so I had a piece of a mesquite burl, and I had one set of pins extra. Was the final ones from the signature Fieldlores. I got enough set aside for those to finish those up when they come up for fabrication. And then I had one extra, so I put it in that. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have time to do custom work on all of them, but you can. There are several options, and the link to the listing will be in the description below. And at the end of this video, there is a link to the introduction video that tells you more about this knife. But thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I wasn't too boring. And you guys get out there and try your knife and see how well it does. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that's not my thing, and that's okay. I do think that whittling on wood is very therapeutic. It's relaxing for me, and I think that everybody should try it. Whether it's not something like this, but maybe do a tri-stick or something else. Just learn knife skills and learn more about your knife and its abilities and capabilities and disabilities, if you will. Because there's always something that the knife is not going to excel at. What I try to do is minimize that field as to, I want it to excel at more things than it doesn't. Okay, so I want something that's versatile. And so I think this knife certainly ticks that box. Till the next one, get in the backyard, whittle on a stick. Be sure to take a child with you, get the opportunity. Don't forget those plenty of band-aids and lots of knives. We'll catch you again very soon.